They gave my sister the keys to my own apartment while I was standing right there. Like I was invisible, like I didn't even exist. My mom smiled at her proudly and said, "This is yours now. Alara doesn't really need it anyway." My chest burned, but I stayed quiet, because what they didn't know was that I had already moved without telling anyone, and what I was about to reveal would destroy their little plan forever. If you want to see how Alara's silence turned into the biggest twist her family never expected, make sure you subscribe now and share this video, because trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. I still remember the way my sister smirked that day, like she had won some grand prize. She twirled the keys in her hand and whispered loud enough for me to hear, "Guess I finally beat you." My parents laughed with her, celebrating as if stealing my place was some kind of achievement. But instead of crying or fighting back, I just nodded and walked away. Because in that moment, I knew something they didn't. The apartment they thought was my biggest possession was actually the smallest thing I owned. That night, I sat alone in my car outside the apartment, watching the lights flicker inside as my family celebrated. They thought they had finally broken me. But what they didn't know was that weeks earlier, I had already emptied the place, moved my belongings into a brand new condo across the city, and transferred the lease under my own private company's name. My parents had no clue that while they were busy mocking me, I had been working 2 jobs, saving relentlessly, and secretly building a business online. Every sacrifice they dismissed, every late night they laughed at, it all came together in silence. They thought I was weak, dependent, and naive. But in reality, I had built something much bigger than 4 walls and a set of keys. So when my sister paraded around, showing off her new home, I smiled to myself. Because soon, they were going to learn the one thing I had kept hidden all along. The apartment they stole wasn't a gift. It was a trap. A week later, the truth started to unravel. My sister had already invited her friends over, bragging that she finally had her own luxury place. She filled the apartment with shopping bags, expensive furniture on credit, and even threw a small housewarming party, acting like a queen in a castle she hadn't earned. My parents stood by her side, proud and smiling, telling everyone, "This is our daughter's new home. We gave it to her because she deserves it more than Alara." But what they didn't realize was that their little victory was already slipping through their fingers. The bills started arriving: electricity, water, maintenance fees, and all of them were still under my company's name. My sister was shocked when she realized the rent wasn't magically free. She stormed to my parents, demanding, "Didn't you say this apartment was mine? Why am I getting bills in Alara's name?" That was the first crack in their perfect plan. My mom tried to call me, but I didn't answer. My dad sent long messages, filled with guilt and excuses, but I stayed silent. Every unanswered call was a reminder that the control they thought they had over me was gone forever. And then came the final blow. At the end of the month, the property manager showed up and politely informed my sister that she was not the legal tenant nor the owner. The lease had already been transferred into my company weeks ago. In other words, she had no rights to live there. The shock on her face was priceless. All her bragging, all her fake pride, crumbled in an instant. My parents tried to argue, shouting that this was a family matter, but the law didn't care. The property didn't belong to them. It didn't belong to my sister. It belonged to me. All they had were empty words, and for once, their power meant nothing. As the truth hit them, the housewarming party turned into chaos. My sister burst into tears, begging my parents to fix it, while my dad shouted at the property manager, accusing him of lying. But the paperwork was undeniable. My name, my signature, my company. No amount of yelling could erase the fact that the apartment never belonged to them in the first place. The next morning, my parents came to see me. For the first time in years, they didn't look proud or arrogant. They looked small. My mother's voice trembled as she said, "Alara, you embarrassed us in front of everyone. Why would you do this to your own family?" I just smiled. "You did this to yourselves. You thought you could take everything from me and I'd stay quiet. But you forgot. I was never depending on you. I was building my own life while you were busy tearing me down." The silence in the room was heavy. My father, who once shouted the loudest, had nothing left to say. My sister looked at me with hatred, but beneath it, there was fear. Fear of the fact that she had underestimated me. Fear of realizing that I was stronger than she ever imagined. Then I delivered the final blow. "You wanted my condo so badly? Keep it, but it comes with the bills, the debt, and the responsibility. Meanwhile, I'll be living in my new penthouse, one you'll never touch." I turned and walked away, leaving them standing in their own mess. That day, I didn't just take revenge, I reclaimed my dignity. I showed them that silence is not weakness, and being underestimated is the greatest power one can have. From humiliation to triumph, from betrayal to independence, I rose above it all. And my family? They were left with nothing but regret. The calls from my parents didn't stop. Day and night they tried every trick, anger, guilt, even fake concern. "We're still your family, Alara. Don't do this to us. Your sister is young. She needs a place to stay. Just transfer it in her name." But every time I read their messages, I remembered the bruises, the insults, the night they laughed while I cried, and my silence became their punishment. Meanwhile, my sister's life inside the apartment started to crumble. The bills kept piling up. The neighbors, tired of her loud parties, began filing complaints. The property manager issued warnings, and when she couldn't pay, late fees doubled the amount. The apartment that was supposed to be her trophy had become a burden she couldn't escape. Behind the scenes, I was already 3 steps ahead. My online business had taken off, and I had quietly purchased another property, something bigger, better, and completely out of their reach. But I didn't reveal it yet. I wanted them to taste every ounce of the struggle they had wished upon me. The irony was delicious. The same people who once mocked me for being weak and dependent were now drowning without me. And the longer I stayed quiet, the more desperate they became. But deep inside, I knew. This was only the beginning. Weeks passed, and my silence drove my family into chaos. My sister, unable to keep up with the mounting bills, maxed out her credit cards and even begged friends for loans. The same friends she once bragged to stopped visiting, whispering behind her back about how quickly her dream home had turned into a nightmare. My parents, desperate and humiliated, finally showed up at my new building. When the doorman refused to let them in, they stood outside for hours until I agreed to meet. My father's voice was hoarse when he said, "Alara, we made a mistake. We thought we could control you, but you've proven us wrong. Please, help us fix this." For a moment I looked at them. The people who had once beaten me down made me feel worthless and handed my home to someone else as if my efforts meant nothing. And now here they were, broken, asking for mercy. I took a deep breath and replied, "You didn't just try to steal my apartment. You tried to steal my worth. You wanted me weak, but instead, you forced me to become stronger. And now, I don't owe you anything." Their faces dropped, as if the last piece of hope had slipped away. My sister screamed at me, calling me selfish, but her words bounced off me like they meant nothing. Because finally, they did mean nothing. I turned my back and walked into my penthouse, the city skyline glowing behind me. For the first time, I felt free. I didn't just win a battle for an apartment. I won the battle for my life, my independence, and my dignity. And as the door closed behind me, I knew one thing for certain. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying others. It's showing them you can rise higher than they ever imagined.